before the cameras rolled, before a single word of dialogue was spoken, before season 6 of The Chosen ever saw the light of day, something sacred happened. And it was not acting. It wasn't rehearsal. It wasn't scripted. It was something else. Something unspoken. Something that shook even the most seasoned actors to their core. What unfolded on that Italian hilltop wasn't just a reenactment of the crucifixion. It was an emotional collapse, a spiritual breakdown, a sacred haunting that still lingers. And when the leaks finally spilled out, the world didn't just see behind the scenes. It saw behind the veil. The leaks that shook the internet. The internet wasn't ready when the leaks began. They came quietly, like whispers from a battlefield. Anonymous posts, haunting photos, exhausted crew members asking for prayers. But then the dam broke. Footage, raw and soul-crushing, began pouring out, and the world quickly realized this wasn't ordinary behind-the-scenes content. It was sacred trauma caught on film. The Chosen Season 6 didn't just dramatize the crucifixion, it relived it. And everyone involved was forever changed. Jonathan Rumi's deep immersion. The leaked images showed Jonathan Rumi collapsed on the ground, his back torn open, hands bound, eyes barely open. This wasn't makeup. These weren't special effects. This was immersion so deep, it blurred the line between portrayal and possession. One insider described how Jonathan remained lying on the ground long after the director called cut, breathing heavily, too emotionally crushed to move. The wooden cross, bloodied and standing tall against a gray Italian sky, looked less like a prop and more like grief sculpted in timber. Director Jenkins' silent burden. Behind the camera, director Dallas Jenkins wasn't shouting directions. He was pacing alone, whispering prayers, clutching his wife's hand in silence. Witnesses said he looked like a man bearing the weight of something too holy to speak. His tears told the story. The story he was telling, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, was pressing into his bones, deeper than mere storytelling. It had become a spiritual confrontation. Actors broken by the weight of the role. Elizabeth Tabish, who plays Mary Magdalene, reportedly wept through entire rehearsals. Her cries didn't stop even after the cameras did. Vanessa Benavente, portraying Mother Mary, had to halt filming several times because her sobbing became physically uncontrollable. These weren't performances. They were emotional breakdowns. The production didn't reshoot these scenes. They kept them because they weren't just acting. They were mourning. The mockery scene, pain beyond the script. Then came the infamous mockery scene, taken from Matthew 27. It took 3 agonizing days to shoot. Jesus is stripped, clothed in a purple robe, crowned with thorns and spat on. But this time, it wasn't just theater. Jonathan Rumi requested real thorns. The crown pierced his skin. Blood flowed. Not stage blood, but his own. One actor playing a Roman soldier walked off set in tears, muttering, "I didn't expect it to feel like this. I thought I was playing a role, but I became the man who mocked Christ, and I couldn't take it." A moment of silence on the hilltop. During a rehearsal, as Jonathan was lifted up on the cross, a gust of wind swept through the hilltop. Silence descended. No one spoke, no cameras rolled, but some began to cry. One whispered, "It felt like heaven paused to watch." Another said, "I've never heard silence this loud." It wasn't rehearsal anymore. It was reverence. The sacred ground of Italy. The decision to film the crucifixion scenes in Italy wasn't just for scenery. They chose the same hill where the Passion of the Christ was filmed. This was holy ground. Jonathan Rumi arrived barefoot, alone and silent. He approached the cross, no cameras, no script, closed his eyes and prayed. He wasn't preparing for a role. He was preparing his soul. On the first day of filming, the sunny sky turned overcast. The air became heavy. There were no jokes, no chatter. Jenkins became quiet. He whispered directions. He wept. And as Jonathan was tied to the cross, the crown of thorns digging into his flesh, he didn't flinch. When the ropes were tied too tightly, a crew member moved to adjust them, But Jonathan stopped him. "Let it be," he said. "If he endured it, I can feel it." That moment froze everyone. Even the birds fell silent. Makeup and mourning. Makeup artists, veterans of war films and horror, found themselves emotionally wrecked. "We've done blood before," one said, "but this was different. This wasn't fake. This was pain with purpose." The bruises looked so real, extras had to avert their eyes. One Roman soldier actor collapsed mid-scene and whispered, "Forgive me." The difference between acting and faith vanished completely. They weren't just applying makeup. They were mourning wounds that felt real. Vanessa Benavente, portraying Mother Mary, collapsed after a take. She wasn't acting. She was grieving. Jenkins didn't call cut. He knelt beside her and held her hand. It wasn't direction anymore. It was communion. Everyone present became a witness, not a filmmaker. There was no longer a line between the set and sacred space. A cast that chose. Reverence cast and crew began fasting. They stopped speaking in character between takes. Phones and social media were avoided. Not from superstition, but from sacred respect. "This story demands everything from us," one actress said, "and the only way to give that is to step out of ourselves." They weren't clocking in to play pretend. They were surrendering parts of themselves to something higher. Then came the hammer scene. A leaked behind-the-scenes clip showed the Roman soldier actor preparing to symbolically drive nails into Jesus' hands. He paused. "I don't want to be the man who does this, even if it's fake," he told Jenkins. The director simply placed a hand on his shoulder. "None of us do, but we have to show it." As he raised the hammer, several crew members turned away. Some cried. One dropped to their knees. It didn't feel like acting anymore. It felt like memory, holy and horrifying. Jonathan's silent devotion. Jonathan Rumi, between takes, was seen seated on the ground, his robe soaked, his face bruised, the thorns still embedded in his scalp. He whispered something. No one knows if it was a line, a prayer, or a cry. But a tear fell, not while filming, but during silence. A tear that said more than any dialogue ever could. No one dared to ask what he said. They simply wept with him. Elizabeth Tabish broke down after watching a take. She wasn't even in the scene. She said later, "I didn't see Jonathan. I saw him, and I felt helpless." Even the production assistants felt it. One, while handing out water, froze and began to cry. "Here we are filming this sacred moment, and I'm walking around like it's normal." But nothing about this was normal. Makeup became a ritual. The makeup trailer turned from a place of preparation to a place of prayer. Every application of blood became a confession. Every wound a lament. They stopped talking. They moved in silence. It wasn't just makeup. It was remembrance. One actor finally spoke after a full day of silence. "I keep hearing his cries in my head," he said. "Even when I go home." The scene of Jesus being mocked became unbearable. Roman soldiers laughing at him, hitting him, crowning him with thorns. But it wasn't just performance. It became personal. The actors couldn't bear it. One walked off set mid-scene saying, "It feels like betrayal." Another actor delivering the mocking lines burst into tears. "I knew I was just acting," he said, "but it felt like I was really mocking Christ, and I couldn't live with that." And through it all, the cameras kept rolling. But the real story wasn't what was caught on tape. It was what happened between the takes, the silences, the prayers, the breaking. As the leaks continue to ripple across the internet, one thing is clear. The Chosen Season 6 is not just another faith-based series. It is a spiritual confrontation, a sacred reenactment, a remembrance of agony too holy to ignore. Those who stepped onto that hill in Italy did not walk away the same, because they weren't just making a show. They were carrying a cross, and now, so are we. If this story moved something in you, if these moments felt too real to ignore, then don't just scroll past, like this video, to keep the truth alive. Subscribe to join us as we uncover what they never intended you to see. Because what's coming next is even more powerful than what's been leaked. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's still hidden behind the curtain.